What if a government experiment ripped open a portal to another dimension, unleashing monsters that feed on fear itself, and the only thing standing between humanity and total annihilation is a group of kids armed with walkie-talkies, a telekinetic girl with a buzz cut, and an unhealthy obsession with Dungeons and Dragons? Welcome to Hawkins, Indiana, where nothing is stranger than the truth. It all begins on November 6, 1983, in the seemingly quiet town of Hawkins, Indiana. 12-year-old Will Byers is cycling home from an all-night D&D session with his best friends, Mike Wheeler, Dustin Henderson, and Lucas Sinclair, when something impossible happens. A creature from another world snatches him into thin air, leaving behind only his abandoned bike and a town full of questions. His frantic mother Joyce and the gruff police chief Jim Hopper launch a desperate search, but they have no idea they're dealing with something that defies every law of nature. While the adults scramble for answers, Mike, Dustin, and Lucas venture into the woods to find their missing friend. Instead of Will, they discover something equally mysterious: a strange girl with a shaved head wearing nothing but a hospital gown, soaking wet and terrified. She barely speaks, but when she does, she reveals one word: 11. The number tattooed on her arm tells them everything they need to know. She's not from around here. Mike takes her in, hiding her in his basement, and the boys quickly realize 11 isn't just running from something. She has telekinetic powers that can flip vans and crush bones with a single thought. But here's where things get really twisted. 11 escaped from Hawkins National Laboratory, a shadowy government facility conducting secret experiments on children. Dr. Martin Brenner, the cold and calculating scientist she calls Papa, has been training her and other numbered children to use psychic abilities as weapons during the Cold War. These experiments had an unintended consequence. They accidentally opened a gate to another dimension, a dark, decaying mirror of our world known as the Upside Down. The Upside Down is a nightmarish realm where everything is rotting and covered in toxic vines, where the air is filled with floating spores, and where a faceless predator called the Demogorgon hunts for prey. This creature, drawn by blood like a shark in water, is the same monster that took Will Byers, and it's hungry. Joyce refuses to believe her son is dead. She starts receiving mysterious phone calls and sees lights flickering in patterns that convince her Will is trying to communicate from wherever he's trapped. In one of the series' most iconic moments, she paints the alphabet on her living room wall and strings Christmas lights above each letter, creating a makeshift Ouija board that allows Will to spell out messages from the other side. RUN becomes the most terrifying word a mother can receive. Meanwhile, there's a heartbreaking subplot involving Nancy Wheeler, Mike's older sister, and her best friend Barb. Nancy starts dating the popular Steve Harrington, and Barb reluctantly accompanies her to a party at Steve's house. While Nancy goes inside with Steve, Barb sits alone by the pool, nursing a cut on her hand from shotgunning a beer. The Demogorgon, attracted by the blood, drags her into the Upside Down. Nancy tells Barb to just go home, words that will haunt her for years. Barb dies alone and terrified, becoming the Demogorgon's victim, and her death becomes the catalyst for Nancy's transformation from popular girl to fierce investigator determined to expose the truth. The kids eventually locate the gate at Hawkins Lab. With 11's help, they make contact with Will, who's barely surviving in the Upside Down by hiding in Castle Byers, a fort he built in the woods. Hopper and Joyce break into the lab, battle through the toxic environment of the Upside Down, and miraculously rescue Will. But there's a cost. In the season's climactic showdown at Hawkins Middle School, 11 uses every ounce of her power to destroy the Demogorgon, disintegrating both the monster and herself in a blinding flash of light. Mike watches helplessly as the girl he's fallen for simply vanishes. But here's the thing about the Upside Down: it never really lets go. Season 2 picks up in October 1984, almost a year later. Will is back home, but he's not okay. He's experiencing episodes where he's transported back to the Upside Down, seeing visions of a massive shadow creature looming over Hawkins like a storm. This entity, which the kids name the Mind Flayer after their D&D campaigns, is the true intelligence behind the Upside Down, a hive mind that controls everything within that dimension. And it wants revenge for the gate being disturbed. The Mind Flayer begins possessing Will, using him as a spy to learn about our world. Will's drawings become more frantic and disturbing, covering his walls with sketches of tunnels spreading beneath Hawkins like a massive organism. Joyce is dating Bob Newby, a sweet Radio Shack manager played by Sean Astin, who tries his best to help the struggling family. Bob's genuine kindness makes his eventual death at the hands of Demodogs, adolescent Demogorgons, one of the series' most devastating moments. He sacrifices himself to save Joyce, Hopper, and the kids, proving that sometimes the real heroes are the ones who never asked for adventure. Speaking of heroes, Steve Harrington undergoes the greatest redemption arc in television history. After losing Nancy to Jonathan Byers, Steve stumbles into an unlikely friendship with Dustin, who's discovered a baby Demogorgon he named D'Artagnan, Dart for short. When Dart grows into a full-sized monster, Steve grabs his signature nail-studded baseball bat and teams up with Dustin to protect the kids. Their bromance, complete with hair advice and monster hunting road trips, becomes one of the show's most beloved relationships. Meanwhile, the biggest twist, 11 is alive. Hopper has been hiding her in a remote cabin, keeping her safe from the government agents still hunting her. But 11 is restless and angry, leading her on a journey to Chicago where she meets Kaylee, number 8, another escaped test subject with the power to create illusions. Kaylee runs a gang seeking revenge on everyone who wronged them at Hawkins Lab. 11 is tempted by this darker path, but ultimately realizes her real family needs her back in Hawkins. The season builds to an epic finale where the Mind Flayer's tunnels are set ablaze, Hopper and Joyce descend into the lab to close the gate, and Steve, Dustin, and Lucas fight off a pack of Demodogs at a junkyard. In the lab's depths, 11 channels every ounce of her returning strength to seal the rift between worlds, her nose bleeding as she screams with effort, forcing the gate shut. The Mind Flayer is expelled, Will is freed from possession, and Hawkins is safe. Hopper becomes 11's legal guardian, giving her the name Jane Hopper. At the middle school snowball, Mike and 11 share their first real dance, and for a moment, everything feels perfect, except the Mind Flayer is still alive in the Upside Down, watching them, and it's planning something big. Summer 1985 brings Season 3, the most colorful and vibrant season yet. The brand new Starcourt Mall has become the social hub of Hawkins, putting local businesses out of work and drawing everyone to its neon-lit corridors. 11 and Mike are inseparable, much to Hopper's annoyance, while Lucas and Max navigate their own complicated relationship. Dustin returns from science camp with news of a girlfriend named Susie, whom nobody believes exists, and a mysterious Russian transmission he intercepted. That transmission leads to the season's major revelation. Russian scientists are operating a secret base beneath Starcourt Mall, attempting to reopen the gate to the Upside Down. They believe the dimensional rift can be weaponized, but instead they give the Mind Flayer a new way to infiltrate Hawkins. The creature can't physically cross over while the gate is closed, so it does something ingenious and horrifying. It possesses dozens of Hawkins residents, turning them into the Flayed, puppet soldiers controlled by the Mind Flayer's hive mind. Billy Hargrove, Max's troubled stepbrother and the local bad boy, becomes the Mind Flayer's primary host. The possessed townspeople melt together into a grotesque biomass, forming a physical body for the Mind Flayer made of flesh and bone. It's body horror at its finest, and it's hunting 11 specifically because she closed the gate. Steve gets a summer job at Scoops Ahoy ice cream parlor, where he meets Robin Buckley, his sarcastic co-worker who becomes his new best friend. Together with Dustin and Lucas's little sister Erica, who steals every scene with her sassy one-liners, they uncover the Russian plot. In one of television's most touching scenes, Steve and Robin are drugged by Russian agents, and Robin comes out to Steve in a bathroom, explaining she's not interested in him romantically because she's into girls. Steve's immediate acceptance and continued friendship cements him as the show's moral compass. Joyce and Hopper team up to investigate strange magnetic anomalies, leading them to the Russian base. Their bickering partnership reveals deep feelings they've been dancing around since Season 1. Hopper has been trying to ask Joyce on a date to Enzo's restaurant all season, but circumstances keep getting in the way. When they finally admit their feelings, it's during a life-or-death mission to destroy the Russian machine keeping the gate open. The Battle of Starcourt is an all-out war. 11 loses her powers after the Mind Flayer embeds a piece of itself in her leg, a scene that's genuinely difficult to watch as the parasite writhes under under her skin. Billy, in his final moments, breaks free from the Mind Flayer's control when Max reaches the human inside, reminding him of happy memories with his mother. He sacrifices himself to protect 11 and the kids, proving redemption is possible even for the most broken souls. Hopper and Joyce reach the Russian machine. To destroy it, someone needs to stay behind and manually trigger the shutdown. Hopper and Joyce share one heartbreaking look before he nods, accepting his fate. The machine explodes, the gate closes, and the Mind Flayer's physical form disintegrates, but Hopper is presumed dead, vaporized in the blast. 3 months later, the Byers family, along with 11, who's now powerless and living with them, pack up and leave Hawkins for a fresh start in California. 11 reads a heartfelt letter Hopper wrote to her about growing up and becoming who you're meant to be. There's not a dry eye in the audience. The final scene reveals Hopper is alive, imprisoned in a Russian gulag where he's forced to fight Demogorgons for the entertainment of his captors. Season 4, released in 2022 after a 3-year wait, is the darkest and most ambitious chapter yet. Split into 2 volumes with feature-length episodes, it introduces Vecna, a new villain who's actually the architect of everything that's happened since the beginning. In spring 1986, Hawkins is plagued by a series of brutal murders where teenagers' bones are snapped and eyes are crushed while they're suspended in the air. The town blames Eddie Munson, the lovable metalhead leader of Hellfire Club, Hawkins High's D&D group, because the first victim, cheerleader Chrissy Cunningham, died in his trailer. Eddie, who's one of the series' most instantly beloved characters, goes on the run while Dustin, Steve, Robin, Nancy, and the others investigate. They discover the killer is Vecna, a humanoid creature from the Upside Down who psychically attacks teenagers carrying guilt and trauma, using their fears against them before killing them. Each murder creates a new gate, and Vecna needs 4 kills to merge the Upside Down with Hawkins permanently. Max Mayfield has been spiraling since Billy's death, consumed by guilt for wishing he would die. Vecna targets her, trapping her in a horrifying trance filled with her worst memories. In the season's most powerful scene, her friends realize music can break Vecna's curse. They frantically search for Max's favorite song, Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill, and play it through her headphones. The music anchors Max to reality, and she runs, sprinting through Vecna's nightmare realm toward her friends' voices, escaping death by seconds. Meanwhile, in California, Mike, Will, Jonathan, and their new stoner friend Argyle discover 11 has lost her powers and is being bullied at school. When Dr. Owens arrives claiming Hawkins is in danger, 11 agrees to enter the Nina Project, a program designed to restore her abilities by forcing her to relive her most traumatic memories. Those memories reveal the show's biggest twist. Vecna is Henry Creel, a boy born with psychic powers in the 1950s who murdered his own family using his abilities. Dr. Brenner found him, brought him to Hawkins Lab, and made him the first test subject. Number 1. Henry befriended a young 11, manipulating her into removing the chip that suppressed his powers. He then massacred nearly every child and staff member in the lab. 11, in self-defense, used her powers to banish him to the Upside Down, where years of exposure to that toxic dimension transformed him into the monstrous Vecna, the Demogorgon, the Mind Flayer, the Upside Down itself. All of it traces back to that moment. 11 didn't just discover the Upside Down, her battle with 1 created the conditions that allowed it to become what it is. In Russia, Joyce and Murray mount a daring rescue mission to free Hopper from the Gulag. Hopper must battle a Demogorgon in gladiatorial combat while Joyce works to destroy the Russian gate. Their tearful reunion after months of believing each other dead culminates in the kiss fans waited 4 seasons to see. Back in Hawkins, the kids formulate a plan to kill Vecna. Nancy, Steve, and Robin enter the Upside Down to attack Vecna in the Creel house, while Eddie and Dustin play the most metal concert in history. Eddie shreds Metallica's Master of Puppets on his guitar atop his trailer in the Upside Down, drawing away the Demobats. It's a moment of pure triumph and tragedy because Eddie, despite succeeding in his mission, is swarmed and killed. He dies a hero in Dustin's arms, finally proving he's not a coward. Max volunteers as bait, allowing Vecna to begin killing her, while 11, using her restored powers, fights him telepathically from Nevada. The final season will determine whether Hawkins and our heroes can survive the ultimate confrontation with Vecna and the Upside Down. After years of fighting monsters, perhaps the biggest question is whether these kids, now young adults scarred by impossible experiences, can finally find peace. That's the entire story of Stranger Things. 4 seasons of government conspiracies, interdimensional horror, 80s nostalgia, and the unbreakable bond between friends who refuse to give up on each other, no matter how many monsters they have to face. And trust me, when Season 5 drops, we'll all be right there with them, ready to venture into the Upside Down one last time.